Hello, my name is Daisha White, and this is my podcast for Mary Lou's Legend. I wonder what we would have been like if I'd been born into a life more like yours and you had been born into mine. Would we be just like we are now? Would I be one of the Republic's top soldiers? And would you be a famous criminal? This was a quote by June, one of the main characters in Mary Lou's Legend. Both June and Day, after growing accustomed to their daily lives, underwent an incredible change after only a few days' time. Day killed June's brother and fled the scene, causing June to develop a deep hatred for Day and made her passionate about finding him. However, upon meeting her brother's assassin, things instantaneously changed. Her hatred would diminish with every minute she spent with him, and Day would make the tragic mistake of sharing her same feelings. Mary Lou's Legend captivated me with its Romeo and Juliet quality, enhanced by the suspense of a tragic mystery. Although the story contained many themes, there was one that was most prevalent. What's interesting about this theme is that Lou came right out and gave it to her audience. Near the end of the book, Day, one of the main characters, says, "Each day means a new 24 hours. Each day means everything's possible again. You live in the moment, you die in the moment. You take it all one day at a time." This theme truly embraced the text. All it took was one day for the lives of both June and Day to become completely changed, and that was the day June's brother was killed. From that day forward, decisions were made daily by both characters that turned their worlds upside down. Now let's get into style. Mary Lou's style of writing may have been one of the most captivating aspects of the book. Lou decided to stagnate the views of both June and Day in alternating chapters. For example, the first chapter of the book, entitled Day, gave Day's description and actions at the beginning of the story. The second chapter, entitled June, gave June's description and actions at the same time as Day in the first chapter. By alternating chapters between the perspectives of the two characters, Lou managed to really captivate and engage her audience, putting them directly in the middle of the plot. For example, when June and Day were on the verge of making their first acquaintance, the chapters became shorter and the audience could almost pinpoint the exact moment the two would meet, and it was the most exciting experience. Furthermore, Lou's style helped to develop the characters. By giving the audience the separate views of both June and Day, the protagonists of the story, the audience was able to see these characters as people and learn their situations. For example, Day's mother thinks he is dead, but very obviously he's not. Day was taken from his family at a young age by the Republic. However, he managed to escape from them. Because he knows that returning back to his home could put his family in danger, Day decides to live life as a homeless wanderer. However, he does frequently camp out near his home to make sure that his family is okay. And when they need something, he either buys it with the money he has saved or steals it for them. This act of stealing and his escape has made Day one of the Republic's most wanted criminals. Because of his homelessness, Day has developed military-like skills and techniques that make it almost impossible for the Republic to catch him. In fact, the Republic doesn't even truly know what he looks like. Lou's writing style also helped to develop June's character. Unlike Day, June lived an upper-class lifestyle and was the crown jewel of the Republic. She was the only recorded person to have received a perfect score on her trial, the test administered to determine a person's place in society. However, she was a bit of a rebel herself. Constantly, June ended up in the principal's office for some rebellious act, and her brother Medius, her last living relative and guardian, was always called to pick her up from school. In essence, Lou's writing style allowed her to develop all the dynamics of her two main characters. Because this story was written about a time far in the future, the story took place in what used to be the Western United States. More specifically, the story took place in Los Angeles, in an area known as the Republic. Like the world we know today, North America was split between the Republic and the colonies, which was representative of the division between the rich and the poor. Furthermore, because Lou decided to develop both June and Day as dynamic characters, she was able to capture both the lifestyles of both characters and the societal differences between the rich and the poor. For example, Day lived on the street in the colonies and had to make do with what he had to protect his family. June, on the other hand, lived in a nice apartment in the upper-class region of the Republic, and she went to the best school, had plenty of money, and never had to worry about her next meal. Now, honestly, Lou did not take as much time to develop the setting as she did to develop the characters in the plot. However, the development of both those things told the audience all they needed to know about the setting in addition to a few smaller details. In addition to Mary Lou's writing style, Legend's plot was extremely captivating. According to Lou, the storyline was inspired by the stage version of Victor Hugo's novel Les Miserables. Hugo's work was about Jean Valjean, a pretty criminal who stole a loaf of bread and was chased for 20 years by Javed, a police officer. Lou liked the idea of writing a story about a detective chasing a famous criminal. But unlike Hugo, Lou decided to give the perspectives of both the criminal and the detective in her story. With that being said, the simple plot of a detective catching a criminal changed the day June and Day met. They were instantly attracted to one another. However, they did not initially know who the other was. This would have turned out to be a perfect love story had June not been a detective and Day was not her brother's assassin. The relationship and connection between them grew stronger by the minute, but the moment June realized who her lover was, her love appeared to have instantly evanesced and she had Day captured. However, her love had not completely gone away. Something in her wanted to believe that Day was innocent, and it turned out that he was. At that moment, June had to make some life-changing decisions because if Day was innocent, then her brother's murderer was still out there, and she believed that it could have been someone very close to her, maybe even a family friend. This book could be connected to many other works. From the past, this book could easily be compared to a modern version of Romeo and Juliet, with its aspects of true love and sacrifice. A more current comparable work would be either Divergent or The Hunger Games. These books too were love stories, but they also gave the message of couples standing up against their current government and serving as advocates for change and equality. These books also raised the issue of the inadequate split between the rich and the poor, which is an issue at hand in Legend and the modern world. Personally, I love all these books, not because they are love stories, but true love stories. The love I am referring to is not just love between a man and a woman, but love for family, friends, and doing what is right, and making the ultimate sacrifice to save those things. It is for this reason that Legend turned out to be an extraordinary and enjoyable book. Now let's compare Mary Lou's Legend to Thomas C. Foster's How to Read Literature Like a Professor. Immediately while reading Legend, I began to draw parallels to the chapter entitled When in Doubt, It's from Shakespeare. I made this connection because everything was there. My first indicator was that June, like Juliet, was of the upper class, and Day, like Romeo, was of the lower class. My second indicator was the fate of the two meeting. It was not just a coincidence that Day killed June's brother, or so she thought, and June was the detective put in charge to go find Day. Neither was it a coincidence that Romeo was to meet Juliet. My third indicator was their instant attraction to one another. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is iconic for its love at first sight concept, and that concept is something Lou embraced in her book. My fourth and final indicator was when June and Day ran off together. Now in Romeo and Juliet, both characters physically die. That was not the case in Legend, but I can say that the two metaphorically died to their old selves. Both lost something in the name of love. Day lost his family, and June gave up her lifestyle and her role as the Republic's crown jewel. She was now one of the Republic's most wanted criminals, like Day was. Legend can also be paralleled to the chapter entitled Hansel D and Gretel Dumb. In this chapter, Foster explains how most stories follow the plots of childhood tales. This is not because everyone loves children's books, but most childhood stories share universal concepts. I would agree that Legend shares elements with the childhood story of Hansel and Gretel. First, the characters of Hansel and Gretel would be June and Day. Second, their journey together has led them far away from home. Because June decided to give up everything to save Day's life, She had to run away with Day and could no longer return home. And because Day fell for June, he lost his family and he had no home to return to. Not that he had one to begin with, but now they have to do what they can to survive on the run. In addition, Foster makes the comment, if it, a story, manages both things at once, strangeness and familiarity, it sets up vibrations, harmonies to go with the melody of the main storyline. Legend embraces those elements of strangeness and familiarity. The plot of a detective falling in love with a famous criminal is fairly uncommon and may come off as a little strange. But the familiar concepts from Hansel and Gretel help the audience to see the story and its bigger picture as a whole. Another comparable chapter would be It's More Than Just Rain or Snow. In this chapter, Foster makes the point that rain is associated with things such as spring, renewal, revival, restoration, cleanliness, and on the other hand, illness or death. In legend, it only rained twice, but the rain served a significant purpose. The first time it rained in the book, Medeus, June's brother, was just killed. I found this significant because before this first shower, June's world seemed to be free of clouds and full of prosperity. Even though she lost both her parents at a very young age, June was too young to feel the depth of sorrow that her brother did. In addition, she was going to a great school and was top of her class, and she was living in the upper class region of the Republic. However, that all changed the day Medeus was killed. The second time it rained was when June and Day escaped from the Republic. This represented the fact that they were no longer naive children. Furthermore, the rain in this book symbolized change and growth. A fourth chapter to compare to Mary Lou's legend would be It's Never Just Heart Disease and Rarely Just Illness. One very important element that moved the plot of the story was the outbreak of the plague in the colonies. Day's little brother caught the plague, and Day knew that the Republic inspectors would come and take his brother away. Out of fear, Day was anxious to get medicine to cure his brother, so he decided to break into the Republic's hospital and steal some. Unfortunately, Day's strategy did not go to plan, and he was nearly caught by Medeus, June's brother. To save himself and make an escape, Day threw a knife at Medeus to slow him down so that he could get away. Day could have sworn that he only hit Medeus' shoulder, but Medeus ended up dead. This made Day June's number one target. Later in the text, June was up one night thinking about her brother's case, and she came across some of her brother's journals, and she was shocked at what she found. Medeus left journals for June, revealing that their parents worked for the Republic in the research lab for the plague. It turned out that the Republic was purposefully giving the people in the colonies the plague so that they could use the infected bodies to create vaccinations to administer to the upper class so that they would never catch the plague. Medeus explains that their parents discovered what the Republic was doing and they wanted out. Unfortunately for the Republic, the only way out was death, so they killed them. After discovering this information, June felt more compelled to save Day. Moreover, Lou used illness to drive the plot of the story rather than just to kill someone off. A fifth, but not final chapter that parallels how to read literature like a professor to legend is Never Stand Next to the Hero. In this chapter, Foster explains how it is usually the best friend or the good companion of the hero that takes the fall on behalf of the hero. In legend, John was the good companion of Day. John was the only one in Day's household that knew that he was still alive, and when it came to Day's execution, he gave his own life instead. In this chapter, Foster talks about static and dynamic characters. Static characters are often one-dimensional and serve a specific purpose. Dynamic characters, such as June and Day, are well-rounded and developed. In this case, John was a static character. Lou needed John to die in order to grow Day's character. Day's mother, who was also killed by the Republic, could also be considered a static character. The audience knew very little of her, but her death made Day determined to seek the truth about the Republic. Moreover, Mary Lou's legend is a fantastic piece of writing. I would definitely recommend this book to that reader who enjoys a great mystery intertwined with a romantic love story. This book was more than a story. It made its audience think, cry, and fall in love with the two main characters. This book definitely earned a 5-star rating in my book.